Okay, today for my demonstrator speech, I will be teaching you how to make a venison steak along with a side of fried potatoes. For this, you'll need a fry pan, skillet. I like to use Crisco. You can use butter. A sharp knife for cutting up your ingredients. Venison steaks. I got these from my deer from this last bow season. Potatoes and apple for the steak. Minced garlic. You can use fresh garlic if you want. Here are my seasonings: brown sugar, onion powder, pepper, and salt. And I'll be using a bit of black truffle oil to rub onto the steak to help for the flavors actually penetrating into the steak for extra flavor. And this is what your potatoes will look like when you chop them up into cubes. Okay, so as far as cutting up your ingredients for the apples, I take off the sides. These side pieces are the ones I will use for putting in with the steak, so I will slice them relatively thin. Again, decently thin. And then as far as garnishing at the end of the cooking for the plate, I'll take these. These will be sliced a little bit thicker because they go on top of the steak just for the looks and the color. Again, just a little bit thicker on these ones. Keep them separate from your cooking pieces. For the potatoes, these will be cubed, so I like to slice these about a 1/4 inch thick. Cut each slice in half, little cubes. Do that with every slice that you have. As so, they're nice little cubes. Okay, so as far as prepping your steak, you will want to take out your steak and you will pat it dry to get most of the moisture off so that your seasonings don't just run off. So you just take a couple paper towels, dry it off evenly, all sides, all edges, as such. Take the seasonings from earlier and you'll take them and just take pinches and rub it into the steak. Make sure you get all around it, all sides, every little piece, get seasoning. It's kind of hard to season a steak that's this big. This is at least 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. And then cover season. And then, yeah. So you will also take your oil. I'm using black truffle. Some of my other favorites are olive oil. And then you'll put it over top. And also on your potatoes. It just adds a good flavor. It doesn't have to be this kind of oil. Like I said, I've used butter, olive oil, I've used vegetable oil. Just anything to add a little bit of extra flavor to your ingredients. Once your oil is nice and hot, it'll start to bubble and it'll start to smoke a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but your oil will start to smoke a little bit. You take your steak, and you always want to lay away from you so you don't splatter yourself with oil. I always start on a relatively high heat to get a good sear on the steak. And I will sear on every side, make sure it's all sealed, make sure all the flavor gets sealed in. And then after that, you will turn down the temperature and slowly bake it. You will now reduce the heat, and then you will add your apples, as I have around the steak. And the apples give a nice, sweeter flavor to the steak, which I do like in a venison steak. It honestly depends on my mood, but today we're doing a sweeter take on a venison steak. Other things I generally use are rosemary and onion, I always use garlic on anything. And yeah, you'll take your apples, you'll start adding them now on top of your steak, because the next thing you do is you're going to start basting your steak. So you're going to move your steak to the top of the pan, and I only got two hands so I can't really show this part, but you would tip the pan towards you, and you take a larger spoon, and as you keep the pan tipped towards you, you just start scooping the butter, and you just keep throwing it on top of the steak. This helps cook it evenly all the way through and keeps your steak from drying out. Okay, so now we will plate our steak, and then we can start on the potatoes afterwards. You'll take your steak, throw it onto your plate. These apples that you sauteed along with the steak can go on top or on the side. These apples are very sweet now, so they make a good little side dish of sorts. So I'll throw a few of them here on the side. Okay, now we'll garnish the steak. These are the apples that I cut up from earlier. You lay them across the top. Just like that. It makes it just look a little more pretty. And then next we will make the potatoes. They will be made in the same pan that you made the steak in. You take them, throw them straight into the pan. And these will have to cook longer on a slow heat because they are larger chunks. And if you cook them too fast, the outsides will be crispy and the insides will not soften. So the potatoes are finished. They are all nice and golden brown. I ended up adding salt and pepper to them just to taste. I'm not going to say a certain amount to add because everyone has their own different taste buds, especially when it comes to salt and pepper. So now you'll take them and you'll add them to your plate. And that is how you make a venison steak and potato dinner.